welcome to FAM Church, and we're glad that everyone is here today. Just a few things before we get into the message today. Number one is usually who knows that we're setting our clocks ahead in a few weeks, okay? No matter how much politicians talk about getting rid of this, they're never gonna do it, it seems like, okay? So here's the deal. In a few weeks, March 8th, we have our Spring Ahead Sunday. And normally what we do is we have a breakfast, right? We have a big buffet of breakfast foods. We have tables set up. And during the service, we eat breakfast and we have our service. Ray doesn't like me getting close to the edge. So I'm trying to stay away. But it's really hard, Ray. It's really hard to not go near the edge. All right, but due to church finances, right now we decided at our board meeting this week, if people would like, it's about $400 or $500 to run that. If there's anybody or peoples that would like to give some extra in order to make our Spring Ahead breakfast happen, we would gladly take your donations. However, if there is no interest in that, then we will just be having a regular service that Sunday instead of doing the brunch that we normally do that day. So just FYI, we got a couple of weeks yet to prepare for that, and so if you've got $50 sitting around, $100 sitting around, and would like to throw it towards that, we would greatly appreciate it. All right, and so the next thing is, last Sunday, our message was about preparing for the service today. Okay, that's what we talked about last Sunday. We were establishing a culture in this church. We're trying to build a foundation and a culture. And one of the things that we want is we want a church that when people walk through the doors, there's a love of God in the place. And so what we had challenged everyone to do was to prepare for service. And so yesterday morning at the men's breakfast, we talked about, as men, making sure that we were prepared for today's breakfast. I had extra prayer time in the sanctuary this morning before anybody got here to prepare for service today. And so I just want to challenge you guys to make sure that you are preparing for Sunday morning service, okay? We have to prepare for our Sunday morning service. And so if you did something to prepare on the coming weeks, just tell me, because I want to share those stories, because I want to make sure that the church knows that other people here are preparing for the service, okay? And then we just want to once again just thank people for living on mission of connecting people to Christ. As Leo's always inviting people to church, he had some more people come from his invite today, and so I just want to say thank you, and let's invite people to church, all right? And we are continuing this series on vision. This month of February is about vision, because we've got to get things turned around. We've got to get this church moving in a different direction. We need God to do something fresh and new in this place. And so we're focusing on our vision, who we are, connecting people to Christ. That's who we are. We want to be connecting people to Christ. But what we saw is that the culture of an organization will eat whatever vision that we have for lunch. It'll just destroy it. If we don't have the right cultural foundation to our church, it doesn't matter what our mission is. It doesn't matter how many times we say it. It doesn't matter how many people Leo invite to church. It's not going to grow. It's not going to have the fertile soil that a church needs to grow up and out. And so last week we looked at the culture that we're trying to establish. See, I got it here. Of God, where we're so excited and so ready to meet God in this room on a Sunday morning that he literally shows up, that those who walk through the doors burdened, that those who walk through the doors heavy laden, that those who walk through the doors with stuff going on in their life, God is here. They meet God, they encounter God, the presence of God shows up and lifts that burden, okay? And so that's what we were looking at last week. And so now this week, we are continuing on as our verses. The first part was love God. The second part is love people. This is this Jesus culture that we're talking about establishing. And so our verse for this morning, or the verse that we're kind of continuing on, as I said, is Mark chapter 12, verses 30 and 31. And it says this: you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. Then the second is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. there is no other commandment greater than these. Love your neighbor as yourself. See, this is the second part of building a foundation, of building a culture in the church where it's attractive to people, where people want what we have. Because so often in this culture, we create or so often in the church, we create a culture that's not like that. That people feel like they cannot walk through those doors because of what's going on in their life, because of the burdens that they're carrying, because of the things that are happening, because of the things that they are doing. And we don't want that as a foundation for our church. We need a Jesus culture that tells us that we love our neighbors as ourselves. What's the key word in that whole phrase? Anybody got an idea? Ourselves. How many love ourselves? Right? We love ourselves. We're good. Oh man, they are terrible. They're a terrible person. And we have a hard because they're going to realize that there's grace in this room, that there's hope in this room, that there's life in this room, because we give ourselves all of those things. We give ourselves grace, we give ourselves hope, we give ourselves life. And so let's dig a little bit deeper into this and how to establish it. We're going to look at a few verses from the New Testament, and I want to start this morning in Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. And in all these verses, I forgot to mention, I'm reading from the English Standard Version of the Bible. And if you can turn in your Bible, or if you have a Bible app on your phone and want to try to follow along, that's great. But otherwise, the verses are all going to be on the screen behind me so that you'll be able to catch that. And the first one, the first section or the first couple of verses is Philippians 2, 3, and 4, as I said. And it says this: "Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others." So creating a culture where we love our neighbors as ourselves starts with us being concerned about the interests of others. And that's a hard thing, because who thinks that life is hectic in here? Who thinks it's hard to keep control of your own life? Right? But now God is telling us, don't only look to your interests, but we need to look to the interests of others. And it's just like a slap in the face, and it goes against everything that society has told us. It goes against everything that our culture speaks, because our culture speaks, it's about me, it's about us, it's about me and my tribe, and everybody else can go, what's the term, that's something with rocks? Kicks rocks. There we go, Maurice. That's the word I'm looking. Everyone else can go kick rocks, right? That is where we are at. That's this society. But Jesus is saying, look, actually it was Paul writing in the book of Philippians, but he wrote that, you know what? We need to look to others' interests as well. So what does that look like? Somebody walks in the door on a Sunday morning and they may be new to the church. You've never seen them before. You walk up to them and you talk to them and you find out what's going on in their life. What's happening? Because every single Sunday, somebody walks through those doors, and they're in desperate need of God. They're in desperate need of Jesus to do something in their life. And they'll walk through those doors, they'll come in, they'll sit down, nobody will say a word to them, and they'll walk out that door, and they'll say to themselves, well, I guess that wasn't helpful. And that's not who we should be. I know you've got friends in this room. Some of you have family in this room. But on a Sunday morning, we should try and keep the conversations to our friends and our family to a minimum and be able to go beyond the group, our circle, and connect with others who are in this room. Because there's quite a few people who walk in here Sunday after Sunday and nobody says anything to them. Or some people say some really crazy things to them. I mean, yesterday at the men's breakfast, somebody shared some crazy stuff some people had said to them their first few visits to the church. And I was kind of blown away by the things that people said to them. My question was, I'm sitting there listening to this going, who is it? I want to find out because I'm going to go smack them upside the head. Do you know how hard it is? You guys know how hard it is to go and do something new, right? Walking into a place where you're the new person, where everybody else seems to know each other and you know nobody. I mean, it takes a lot of courage to be able to do that. Most people, even the thought of pulling into this parking lot and walking through this door where they don't know anybody gives them so much anxiety that they won't even do it. People like to be comfortable. They like to go to places that they know people, that they know, what's going to happen, that they know everything so that they can feel comfortable. That's why a lot of times before they go to a church, they'll look at the web page, research what's going on at the church. But we have got to be people who relieve people's anxiety when they walk through the doors by being kind, by being loving, by being compassionate, by not caring what they look like on the outside. Because sometimes we get caught up in that, don't we? They're looking kind of weird. I think I'll just stay over here. I don't want to have that conversation. But that's the way we think. They're culturally different. They're socioeconomically different. They're just, everything is different about people. And they walk through those doors and we try and avoid different. But that is not what Jesus has called us to do. He has called us to love those who walk through the doors, to reach out to them as they're struggling and as they're and let them know that this is a place where you can find hope, where you can find healing, where you can find all the things that I have found through Jesus Christ. The second way that loving looks, and this is more for church people to build a good culture, is we need to be forgiving of one another. Be kind to one another, tender-hearted. Ephesians 4:32, sorry. Forgiving one another as God in Christ forgave you. How good are we at extending grace to others? How good are we at saying, you know what? In relationships, things happen. It doesn't matter how holy you are, you're going to have disagreements with people. You're going to have conflicts with people. You're going to have issues with people. It's about being able to forgive one another for those things that we do. Being able to say, you know what? It's all right. We can get past this because we both serve Jesus. And maybe, it depends on what it is, but some of this stuff could be it could be cultural stuff that causes enmity between people. It could be racial, it could be economic, whatever it is. Those are things that we have to understand. And I'm going to say this, is that we've got to learn to understand each other. Because we all come from different backgrounds. We all have had different experiences in life. And I'm always, I don't know if I should go off on this rabbit trail. This might be the best rabbit trail to go off on. But I just get concerned when people of another race dismiss other people's, of other races' experiences. You know, from the African American community especially, they'll come along and they'll say, this is my experience in this culture. And somebody who's white will say, no, that's not true. How do you know? You're not walking in their shoes. You haven't experienced what they're going through. We've got to be able to see that and be able to listen to one another and hear what each other has to say and understand the experiences that we are going through in life and how that's impacted us, affected us, and made us who we are. And when those issues and those tensions come up, we need to be able to say, ask for forgiveness and give forgiveness when we stumble into whatever area it is, and we make mistakes. Now, this doesn't mean we ignore wrongs. And this is what people think is that, well, if I forgive them, it's ignoring the wrong. No, it's not ignoring the wrong. Forgiveness means we don't harbor bitterness. And see, that's another one of these things. And this is, and it goes down to loving our enemies. And I hate to say this, but the verse that I have here is Matthew 5:44, but I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. I mean, that's another cultural thing. And this one is crazy because we really live in a society where nobody wants to pray for their enemies. All right, so I know that there's been a lot of controversy over the Super Bowl halftime show. And the thing that blows me away about this whole thing, Kendrick Lamar's bitterness towards Drake just blows my freaking mind. He is like, this beef's been going on for over 10 years, and he took a quarter of a halftime show just to go after this other guy. And it was just like, bro, he can hold a grudge. But that's what our culture says. It's okay to hold a grudge. We shouldn't be holding grudges. That's not what we're about. And so if your enemy walks in the door, if there's somebody who walks in the door, I just don't like them, go up, lay a hand on them, and pray for them. Because that sets a culture in here of nobody is an enemy of God. Now, it doesn't mean like if you've had like real conflict with somebody, you have to let them back into your life. That's not what we're saying here. But being able and willing to pray for them, that helps build the culture of, you know what, we're not going to sit and be bitter, angry people, and the worship team's not going to get together and we're going to write a diss track about somebody in the church, right? I don't know. But anyway, and then the final thing that we should have is we should have compassion. Compassion for other people. I didn't want to read the story of the Good Samaritan because it's long. It takes up a lot of time reading the scripture. But if you haven't read it, I would just challenge you to go home and read it after service. But basically, it's a story about what true compassion looks like. True compassion looks like a man who was hated by the person that he was helping, picking him up off the ground, bringing him to an inn, bandaging his wounds, paying his bills, and saying, if anything else happens, I'll give you more money just to take care of it. See, we should be a church that is compassionate. See, compassion and love are something that are active, right? It means, I think it was Toby Mac, or what was the group called before he was just Toby Mac? The group with Toby Mac and what's his name? The guy who was with, oh my gosh. Jesus Freak? Who sang the Jesus Freak song? DC Talk, that's it. All right, somebody help me out there. Now I forgot where I was going with that. All right, anyway. Compassion. I still don't remember where I was going with that. It is, Millie, it is. So, uh, but it's, huh? Well, I have no idea. Huh? I don't know. I don't remember why I was saying that at all. I have no clue. And I didn't write it in my notes. So we're just gonna have to. That'll be a mystery. If I remember it later, I'll send out a group email with that info in it. But compassion. Oh yeah, that's what it was. They had a song called "Love Is a Verb." There you go. All right, I got it. But that's what it is. Love and compassion are action words. And so, if we're a loving church, that means that love moves us to action. We just don't speak those words out, right? We just don't say, "Oh, yes, I love you," and then that's it and walk away. See, that love looks like action. It looks like us doing something about the situation, about their circumstances, about where they are at in life. You know, somebody walks in the doors and they've got a heavy burden, and you talk to them and you hear what's going on and you hear something that you could possibly resolve. Then we try to resolve it. Our love should be in action. You know, if there's something you think the church can solve that you hear somebody talking about, you come to me or go to one of the board members and say, "Hey, this person said this. Is there anything that the church can do about it?" Our compassion should lead to action. And so in our lives, when we see people, when we meet people, our love should lead to that sort of action. We should have compassion and love in action on everyone who walks through those doors. Making sure we're taking care of people, making sure we're ministering to needs. I mean, this church, we do a lot of that sort of thing. I mean, that's what our food distribution was birthed out of. We make our facilities available to the homeless. Jennifer has 2 shower days a week now. Not for her. She takes a shower every day. But she brings the homeless up here twice a week to take showers in our showers. And so we're building this thing, but we've got to every need that we can solve and be compassionate, have that love in action we need to have. And so that's what our foundation needs to look like. That's what our culture needs to be built on. We need to have this loving others thing where people know that when they walk through those doors, if we can meet their need, we're going to meet their need. If we can pray for them, we're going to pray for them. If we can just talk with them and help them through a difficult and challenging time, we're going to talk with them and help them. If any of those things that we can do, we are going to do it. We'll sit with them if they need someone to sit with. Because we want to lay the foundation of love in action in this place. And that should be our culture here. I mean, the words to this song that Rebecca picked out for this morning, I mean, speak it so clearly. You know, if I'm known by how I love, let my life reflect how much I love you. That should be us. Our life should reflect how much we love God. Not in trying to, go out there and make sure that we let everyone know that they're a sinner and they're going to hell. Because does that help? No, it never helps going up to somebody going, "If you keep doing that, you're going to hell." "Oh, really? Okay, thanks." I mean, it's just like, it doesn't help. We love people in the kingdom. And yes, truth has to come in play at some point in time, but that's never how it comes into play. Because nobody responds to that sort of thing, if, speaking those sorts of words. And so, let's lay this foundation in this church where we love others. And so what I'd like to do, if the worship team could come back up, I just want to sing that song one more time. I know Taylor's already left, so she won't be coming back up. But if we can we're going to sing this song. We're going to end with this song, "Send Me," because we want God to send us into this world as light, as hope, as everything that this world needs. find a firm foundation